How do you create order out of the chaotic world? Calendar, habit tracking, journaling. How do you know what to do and not to do? If you come to me and tell me what you want to achieve in your lifetime, I can reverse engineer it down to this second.
Yeah, welcome to the Aro Benaiah Show, where we explore the mind and journey of leaders who build, innovate, and shape the world through resilience, and intentional growth. Today's guest is Lazaros, founder and CEO of Next Level University, a global 100th podcast with over 2,200 episodes, 1 million listening, and audience across 180 countries. He is a computer engineer, MBA holder, and has invested over 11,500 hours into coaching, training, and podcasting to help people reach their highest potential in health, wealth, and love. Or from adversity to purpose-driven leadership, and is a proof that personal growth can transform everything: your identity, your business, your relationship, and your future. Alan, it's really a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you. And thank you. I'm also grateful to be here. I don't take it lightly to speak into the lives of other people. I think that's an honor. I also think it's a responsibility. So I'm here to add as much value as I possibly can.
Alan, how was it like growing up?
Yeah, so tough start. So in 1988, I was born, November of 1988. I was born and raised in Massachusetts in New England. And I had a birth father. My birth father's name was John McCorkle. He was from a big family in Massachusetts. It was Jim, Joe, John, Jane, Joan, Jeanette. Yeah, 6 siblings, all J. And my mother at the time, so this was 1991, and my birth father, John McCorkle, died tragically and suddenly in a car crash. At the time, I had a sister who was 6 and a mother who was 31, stay-at-home mom. And then from that point on, I had a stepfather named Steve Lazaros. So I took his last name, I think, around age 7. And that's why I'm Alan Lazaros today. A lot of people, it's a very Greek last name. And a lot of people who recognize that last name, they look at me and they see the blonde hair and blue eyes and they go, Lazarus? I look very different. So very Irish and German, that kind of thing. But anyway, so from age 3 to 14, from 1991 to basically the early 2000s, I had a stepfather named Steve. And my mom and stepdad did not get along. That's a polite way to put it. I playfully refer to this part of my life as boats and BS. And the reason why is they liked to have a lot of fun. This was the 90s. This is the .com bubble era in the US. And so he worked for a company called AGFA, AGFA. They did hospital computers during the .com era. And we had snowmobiles and a motorcycle. And my mom drove a BMW. And we had ski trips. And we had a yacht. And we lived on a lake. We did very well. So from the outside in, it looked great. From the inside out, like I said, my mom and stepdad did not get along, so it was not very good. But then when my stepdad left, he took 95% of the income with him. When I was 14 years old, the hardest year of my life, in hindsight, he leaves, takes his entire extended family with him. My sister moves out that same year. That same year, my mom gets in a fight with my Aunt Sandy, her sister, and we get kind of ostracized from her side of the family. So we don't associate with the McCorkles, my birth father's side, much because we're trying to be the Lazaroses. The Lazaroses leave, never seen or spoken to a single one of them since. And then we get kind of ostracized from my mom's side. So I kind of lost 3 families by the time I was 14. Yeah, so tough start, like I had mentioned.
Yeah, so true.
Not only that, but we went from boats and ski trips to I get free lunch at school now because our income is so low. My mom trades in her BMW for a little Honda Civic. How do we keep the house in the family? We don't have cable. We're not going to starve by any means, but we went from kind of upper middle class doing very well financially to how do we keep the house in the family? How am I going to afford college? So I became the man of the house at 14, and I looked into the future. There was no generational wealth, no trust fund, no dad. We're in some trouble here. What are we going to do? And I had 2 trauma responses. One of them, so there's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Those are the ones people know. Fawn is the one people don't know. Fawn means you appease. So I think we all live in 2 worlds. I think we live in the social world and the real world. The real world is the marriage. The social world is the wedding photos. I think it's a good metaphor. And in the social world, I became fawn, appease. Don't lose any more friends and family. Don't lose any more friends and family. Don't lose any more friends and family. And then in the real world, though, behind the scenes when no one was watching, it was fight. It was aim higher, work harder, get smarter. Aim higher, work harder, get smarter. So I got straight A's through all of high school. I got what's called the President's Award signed by George W. Bush behind me. And it basically means you have an academic excellence award. You get a 95 or above GPA on every report card for all report cards, 16 report cards straight, 4 years, 4 report cards each year. So I graduated top of my class. I got into WPI, Worcester Polytechnic Institute. It's like a mini MIT in Massachusetts. I got my computer engineering degree, graduated with high distinction, got my master's in business, and then I was off to the races. So I did the traditional path, and I did it very well. It was preschool, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, corporate. And in corporate, I was very successful as well. And I worked for tech companies, Oz Development, Sensata Technologies, Eco Safety Products, a company called iRobot. I eventually landed at a company called Cognex. They sold industrial automation equipment into manufacturing facilities all across the world. And I did inside sales engineering and then outside sales engineering. At this point, I'm in my early 20s. I paid off $84,000 worth of college debt in a single year. I had $150,000 in the stock market, and I was just building wealth. And I made almost $200,000 a year, about 180 is where I peaked. And this is back then.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing very well. My territory is Vermont, Connecticut, and Western Massachusetts. I'm selling to industrial automation equipment to big companies like GE. Frito-Lay was in Connecticut. Like, it was my territory. Ben & Jerry's, Unilever, Ovidian, all these kinds of things. And Procter & Gamble was one of the big ones as well. But I'm basically in my mid-20s at this stage, and I achieved what I thought I was supposed to, and then I get in my car accident. And so again, long story to tell you, but head-on collision, my fault. Fortunately, no one was killed, but I was 26 at the time, dark winter night back in 2015 up in New Hampshire, one of the 2 people that I've since seen from my mom's side, because basically haven't seen or spoken to anyone except for 2 people on that side. One of them was in the car with me. He was okay. But head-on collision, 30 miles an hour, not a fender bender, both cars totaled. Fortunately, no one killed, and that was the second chance my dad never got, because my dad died in a car when he was 28, and I was 26 at the time, and this was sort of the second chance my dad never got. So this was my quarter-life existential crisis, and that's when I really turned everything around. When I say turn everything around, I was not taking care of my health. I was drinking too much and too often. I had too big of a social life. I brought my high school friends to college, my college friends to corporate. I was kind of everything for everybody, spread myself too thin. I didn't have a very strong true north.
Yeah.
And I started a little company called Lazaros LLC, what you'll never learn in school but desperately need to know. And that was 11 years ago now. And I'm still sort of on that same mission, which is spreading self-improvement, personal growth, personal development, mindset, goals, success, habits, character, humility, courage, vulnerability, all these things that we didn't learn in school, but we desperately need in life.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lazaros. And this is really amazing and robust. Let's start piecing one after the other. So what was the first step that actually led you into first development and inner transformation?
The first step was just books. I just started reading as many books as I could. And I can just give you some of them. At this point, I've probably read hundreds, if not thousands. I actually do need to tally up that number because I would like to know that number. But I went from not really reading personal development books until I was 26 to digesting every single one of them as quickly as I possibly could. So Atomic Habits, The Compound Effect, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, all the Tony Robbins books, all the Wayne Dyer books, all these different ones. Now, Brendan Burchard, High Performance Habits, all this different stuff. And I just started to go down this road of personal development, self-improvement, and personal growth and fitness. And I just started to really work on myself. So all the personal development speakers like Jim Rohn, Og Mandino, Zig Ziglar, Les Brown, all these different. And so you just kind of get immersed into this world of personal development. And then you mature and you grow and you learn and you realize some of it is nonsense and some of it's great. And now I think I have a lot more of a practical approach to self-improvement than I did originally, but I think a lot of that inspiring and motivating stuff helped me a lot early on.
Yeah, wow, amazing. Thanks for sharing, and thanks for the name of those particular books. Definitely my audience are going to revisit it. So how do you differentiate happiness from true?
So the first differentiation is fulfillment comes from within. I think happiness is something that we pursue externally, and I think that we never really get there. So fulfillment, I like to think of like a byproduct. So I have this triad of fulfillment that we teach in our group coaching program. We've done 20 groups now, 5 years, 4 groups per year every quarter. So 5 years now, which is crazy. We're coming up on group 21 in January. But we teach this triad of fulfillment, which is growth, contribution, and quality of life. So if you think of in the center is fulfillment, fulfillment is a byproduct. And what I mean by that is it's an effect, not a cause. And it's kind of like laughter. In order for someone to laugh, you have to say something funny. You can't force it, right? And you can't force fulfillment either. Fulfillment comes from meaning, growth, contribution, and improving your quality of life. And fulfillment comes from basically becoming all you can and growing and contributing in the direction of your goals and dreams. And so happiness, I think, is fleeting. Happiness, I think, is also associated with pleasure and sort of dopamine spikes. So if I eat this donut, then I'll be happy. If I eat this donut, then I'll feel good, but it's not fulfilling. Fulfillment, I think, comes from challenge and doing hard things and doing things that mean a lot. So I think meaning and goal orientation toward meaning helps people be more fulfilled. And you can always see someone who's fulfilled, right? Healthy, wealthy, and in love. I do speeches, and in my speeches, I always try to ask, who in here wants to be healthier, wealthier, and more in love? And every hand goes up. And then I say, okay, who here wants to master fitness every day, master finance every day, and be humble, courageous, and vulnerable every day with their intimate partner? And a lot of the hands go down. And the thing is that health, wealth, and love is a byproduct. It's an effect, not a cause. So to me, I'm much more concerned with the causes than I am the effects. The effects take care of themselves when you focus on causes. And causes are inputs. And so we track metrics and habits at my company. Everyone I coach, every team member, we all do what we call peak performance tracking. And every single day, it's a system of success that we execute against toward our goals and dreams. But ultimately, fulfillment is a byproduct of the soul's recognition of alignment with its highest self. And people say, well, it's about the journey. Thank you. So they say it's about the journey, but here's the thing. The destination you choose in advance dictates the journey.
Yeah, so true, so true.
Traveling 30 minutes south is very different than traveling 3,000 miles across the country like I did in my early 20s when I drove from Boston to LA. So people say, well, it's about the journey, enjoy the journey. Here's the thing. You need to choose goals in advance that force you to embark on an epic journey of growth and contribution. And so I think life without goals can become very meaningless very quickly, because life without goals is often a life without growth. But they have to be goals that are not ego and vanity. They have to be goals from the heart.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lazaros. I think you just speak volume, especially when you said fulfillment is a result of effort, not cost, being that a whole lot of things has to be in alignment for you could actually make reference to your fulfill, being that you know that you're creating a meaning with what you do. Yeah, across the various particular places, across the various goals, you have actually more like it to set, and this is really amazing. So what habit has shaped you the most in the last decade?
Habit tracking is my answer to that. So it's kind of a meta habit, right? But I used to carry these little black notebooks around with me 11 years ago. I started habit tracking, and I had this mechanical pencil, and I had little black notebooks. I've got them over in the corner. I usually show them during my group coaching program. And this is where it started. And it was just, I'd open the notebook and it would be a journal. And in the left sort of side of the page, I would put my system of success, is what I called it. I now call it peak performance tracking, and now we do it in Google Sheets. But we also have an app that we had launched. But ultimately, it started out with the mechanical pencil and me checking off and then erasing each day. So every morning I'd wake up with a blank system of success, and then I'd go to bed having done and tracked all those habits. And I did that for years and years and years. I've been doing that for 11 years now, but I did it in a notebook for years. And then my business partner, Kevin, started doing it, and now my entire company does it. And so the most important habit for me has been habit tracking. And to me, if you don't track, it's very hard to stay on track. I was just on with a business owner earlier. Her name is Janae. Her business does about $2 million a year gross and top line revenue. And her and I just talked about creating a system of success for her to stay on track, because they had a really hard October and things have been really good since then, I guess. But at the end of the day, how do you create order out of the chaotic world? Calendar, habit tracking, journaling. How do you know what to do and not to do? So I'm an engineer, so a lot of people don't like this, but if you tell me what you want for your lifetime, I can reverse engineer it. So it's seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, quarters, years, decades, lifetime, and then beyond your own lifetime, which is legacy. If you come to me and tell me what you want to achieve in your lifetime, I can reverse engineer it down to this second. And you and I, right now, in real time, have connected as a byproduct of our mutual goals. Now, we didn't say that, but we're both podcasters. We have a mutual goal to add value, to practice our craft, to potentially be successful in business. And I think that when you have goals and dreams, and when you stay on track toward those goals and dreams, you stop doing the things that take you away from them, and you keep doing the things that bring you closer and move the needle, constructive things. It's unbelievable what can happen over time. But here's the problem. there's a lot of work up front for very little to no reward.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think this is very lovely, and thank you for the stories in between. And so, how can one actually avoid burnout while striving for excellence?
Sleep is
Ooh.
yeah. So I was on with my client yesterday. His name's Cole, and him and I have this electronic notebook that I'm showing on camera now. It's called a Remarkable, and I'm always coaching with it. And I had written down Pareto's principle states that 80% of results come from 20% of causes. And I like to take Pareto and go a little deeper. What's 20% of 20%? 4%. What's 20% of 4%? 0.8%. What's 20% of 0.8%? 0.16%. What's 20% of that? So you go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and you realize that the large majority of outcomes people want in life, effects, are actually from very small causes that are done well. And sleep is one of those. So if you want to avoid burnout, that's the goal. If you want to Pareto that, basically the 20% of 20% of 20% of 20% of 20% of that is sleep. So I track my sleep. I have an Oura ring on. I track my sleep every single day. My beautiful girlfriend and future wife, we track our sleep, and we send each other what we call a DEM score, D-E-M, deep and REM sleep. So the Oura tracks how much deep sleep you get and how much REM sleep you get. I add that up, divide by 60 because it's in minutes, and you get a DEM score. And for me, anything above 3 hours of deep and REM sleep is green. Anything between 2 and 3 is yellow. Anything below 2 is red. So if you're getting less than 2 hours of deep and REM sleep per night, you're probably on your way to burnout. And you can study the neuroscience, you can study the physiology. Sleep, Cole and I yesterday, in my notebook, live, I said, Cole, you and me, let's come up with something that's more important than sleep. For peak performance, excellence, goal achievement, well-being, health, wealth, love, give me something that's better, that's more important than sleep. We could not come up with anything. We believe that sleep is the most important. Effective, quality sleep is the most important. That is the only reason why I can work. So I can authentically say this, as much as people don't like it because they think I'm a workaholic. I'm living my life. Everyone chill. I have not taken a full day off in 11 years. Sometimes it's an hour a day. Sometimes it's 16 hours a day. Usually it's somewhere in between. But I move the needle every single day a little bit. And the only way I've been able to do that without burning out is I don't drink alcohol. I sleep and track my sleep. And I am very, very, very careful with what I hydrate. So it's sleep, hydration, nutrition, training, mobility, breathwork, and supplementation. If you dial in your fitness first, your machine, brain and body, is so unbelievably more capable. And so a lot of people burn out because they just don't take care of themselves.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks for sharing that, Dan. Yeah, amazing. Which of the three, health, weights, and love, tends to be the most neglected, and why?
Great question. I think it depends on the person. I think some people it depends on what they focus on. And usually that depends on what they had trauma around growing up. So if you had very little love growing up, you unconsciously are probably more focused on love than you are on anything else. If you had very little money growing up, you probably are focused on wealth more than you are on the other things. And if you had health challenges growing up, you're probably more focused on health than the other things. Because usually we run in the opposite direction of what causes us massive pain. And trauma is just chronic or sudden pain, chronic and acute. So chronic would be consistent trauma over time. Acute would be a lot of trauma in a very short amount of time. And so I chased money because when my stepdad left, I was the man of the house and I needed to make money, and not having money caused us a lot of pain. And I realized that after my car accident, I realized, okay, I had money, but I wasn't fulfilled. I was running from the pain of being broke. And so I always say this, most people, including myself, before my car accident, are playing not to lose rather than playing to win. We're playing not to lose people. We're playing not to lose money. We're playing not to lose status. We're playing not to lose perception. We're playing not to lose. And when you actually start playing to win, you actually have to fail forward and almost face your deepest fear. So for me, my deepest fear was abandonment. And so I was trying to hang on to friends and family, and I had to let a lot of that go in order to be successful. Not successful wealth-wise, but successful holistically. And so for other people that are so afraid to be seen as failures, they have to let go of that in order to actually be successful. But to answer your original question, health, wealth, and love, which one is the most neglected depends on the individual. But what I will say is almost no one has all three. And that has been really hard to understand. But I crunched some numbers because Kevin and I built our podcast and our business around this idea of being healthier, wealthier, and more in love, holistic self-improvement. And I realized over time that no one's really doing that. And I wondered why, because it's so obvious to me. Like, what does everyone want? They all want to be healthier, wealthier, and more in love. Like, there's no one on earth who doesn't want that. So it's like, why are we the only ones who do that? I think there's a couple reasons. Number one, if you're top 1% in health, top 1% in love, and top 1% in wealth, you are 1 in a million. It's 1 over 100 to the third power. 1 over 100 times 1 over 100 times 1 over 100 is 1 in a million. So it's very hard to be really good at 3 things. Most of us, if you want to be healthy, wealthy, and in love, that's basically 3 full-time jobs. It's very hard to be all 3. And so usually we end up, a lot of my mentors, I had a lot of coaches and mentors in my 20s and teens and 20s, and they would be really wealthy, but they would be unhealthy as hell and not in love, right? You know the deal. And it's, I don't want to be wealthy and not in love. I don't want to be wealthy and divorced like you. I don't want to be wealthy and overweight. I want to be healthy, wealthy, and in love. I want to be all 3. And so I think it's doable, but I also think if you decide to be healthy, wealthy, and in love, you better get humble quick, because it's going to be 3 full-time jobs that all have to be done simultaneously. And if you think it's going to be easy, you're in so much trouble.
Yeah, so true. Yeah. So after 2200 podcast episode, what key lessons has the microphone taught you?
The microphone. Nice. What key lessons has the microphone taught me? Okay. So 2,260 something episodes now, where Kevin and we had guests for the first few hundred episodes. We actually did hundreds of interviews. So I think we had guests all the way up until like 650 or something. Yeah, I'd have to go back and look, but we stopped having guests eventually. But between the hundreds of interviews that we did, I'm talking Olympic athletes, I'm talking Olympic gold medalists, I'm talking millionaires, 1 billionaire, I'm talking every industry, every country, not every country, but most countries. So there's 195 countries on planet Earth. There's 180 countries that we're listened to in, and I've coached people in a lot of them. I've interviewed people in a lot of them. And so there's 8 billion people on planet Earth, 5.65 billion people on the internet, 195 countries, and I've been coaching for 11 years. I have 11,784 coaching sessions, trainings, and podcasts under my belt with people all over the world. I call it my magic number. I've been tracking it for 11 years. I used to call it my 10,000 hour tracker, and then I passed 10,000 hours, so now I call it my magic number.
Yeah.
What I can tell you from all of that is that high level, all of us are different and all of us are the same. It's the and. The principles apply to all of us, and we need to apply those principles uniquely to us. So we all have strengths and weaknesses. And the best way I can describe this is what the microphone has taught me is that the success principles that help us be healthy, wealthy, and in love, the principles are the same for all of us, and the way we apply them has to be different and unique to our circumstances. So you have a different context. You have different goals. You have different strengths and weaknesses. You have a different brain, a different body. So the best way I can describe this is, I remember looking this up. People know dog. The species is canine. So there's 500 recognized breeds of dog, of canine. And I think, we don't say this, but I think there's probably a bunch of different types of breeds of Homo sapiens. And we can't apply the exact same things in the exact same way to people who are not the same. But the principles are the same. So setting clear, specific goals for your future, that's a principle. Everybody should, but not everybody should have the same size goals, and not everybody should have the same goals. Okay? Courage, humility, and work ethic. Those apply to all of us, but they need to be in different. So for me, I was very socially cowardly, and Kevin needed to have more humility, inward humility. And outwardly, he was very humble, but inwardly, he was arrogant. For me, I was outwardly arrogant, but inwardly humble. And so the thing that I've learned from the microphone is that all of the success principles and personal development and self-improvement and personal growth and trauma healing and therapy and coaching and all this stuff, you basically have to completely synthesize it and make it unique to what you are trying to accomplish and who you are trying to become. And remember that who you are trying to become is a byproduct of what you're trying to accomplish. The neuroscience shows that there are chemical, functional, and structural changes in the brain. I've been listening to TED Talks every single morning on neuroscience, and the goals you set are affecting your brain. The goals you set change what you pay attention to. What you pay attention to changes what you do and don't do. What you do and don't do changes your brain. And it's a cycle, and it keeps going. So what you say, think, do, feel, and believe, if you consider that who you are, is actually often a byproduct of your unconscious and subconscious goals. So how do you get off autopilot, design your own life, identify your strengths and weaknesses? And the last piece of this that I've learned from the microphone is that I think the number one reason more people are not fulfilled and successful is because they have a low understanding of themselves, others, or the world. So a self-driving car needs three things. It needs an accurate current location, an accurate destination location, which is a goal, and an accurate updated terrain. I think most of us are like a self-driving car that doesn't know itself, low self-awareness, an inaccurate current location, don't have a goal, so no accurate destination address, and we think it's a road, it's actually a cliff. We keep driving off a cliff and then blaming the world or blaming ourselves or blaming other people or blaming the government. Now, that's not to say there aren't oppressors out there. But what I am saying is that most of our ineffectiveness to being successful is actually because we don't actually understand ourselves, others, and the world. If you understood yourself 100%, others 100%, and the world 100%, and how the economy works, and how it all works, you would make effective choices. But we don't. We're born naked, scared, and ignorant. We don't know anything. We don't know ourselves, others, and the world, so we just start failing forward, making horrible decisions, being traumatized, and getting traumatized, and then we end up a shell of what we could be. So I think of all human beings as a ball of potential that could get bigger or smaller. And I try my best to help people get bigger by helping them understand themselves, others, in the world better, because I think that life is a lot like chess. If you know the position on the board, you know the pieces, and you know what the pieces do, you are actually in control of the outcome. Not everything, but you're in control of your own life. And I think that that's a good metaphor because ultimately you have to control the controllables. I didn't get to choose that my dad died. I didn't get to choose that my stepdad left. I didn't get to choose where I was born, but I do get to choose what I do about that. I do have to find a way to make a life out of that. And I have, and I'm very grateful, but God, it was brutal.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, Lazaros. So finally, for listeners who feel capable of more, but don't know what's the next step, what is your simplest challenge for them today?
Okay. We have 33 days left in the year. Set a goal from now until January 1st to accomplish something tangible. Make sure it's measurable, and then create at least one habit underneath it. So goal, metric, habit. The goal is this is just hypothetical, I'm not doing this. The goal is I want to lose 4 pounds, 1 pound per week for the next 4 weeks until January 1st. Okay, that's the goal. The measurement is I step on the scale every day. The habit is I exercise for 20 minutes a day. Okay, that's it. One goal, one metric, one habit. There's your challenge. That will get you started on actually believing in yourself, because we live in this conundrum. On this hand, we don't believe in ourselves, so we don't set a goal. And then because we don't have a goal, we don't believe in ourselves because we don't build self-belief. Self-belief comes as a byproduct of keeping the promises you make to yourself, setting and achieving small goals. So set a level 1 goal, achieve it, and then set a level 2 goal, achieve it, and then set a level 3 goal, achieve it. And that's why we have Next Level University, Next Level U, pun intended. You can build self-belief, you can build self-worth, you can build self-discipline, you can build consistency, you can build these things, but you have to start small and you have to build, because a lot of people don't believe in themselves at all deep down, but they act like they do with their ego, and they're wandering around lost and acting like they're found. And so if you really want to take back control of your life, you got to start really small with a really small goal, prove to yourself you can achieve it, and then consistently up the ante over time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lazaros. So Lazaros, how can my audience connect with you? How can they learn more about you, and where's the best platform to do this?
Okay, so thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's awesome. Thank you. If you have high humility, high work ethic, and a high self-improvement orientation, you're going to love Kev, you're going to love me, you're going to love Next Level University. We have a 20-person team. We have a podcast called Next Level University. It is on YouTube, all podcast platforms. We do an episode every single day. 0.1% improvement in your pocket from anywhere on the planet, completely free. Next Level University, Next Level U, not Next Level Me, Next Level U. And so that is available to anyone, totally free. And we have nextleveluniverse.com is the website. We have a group coaching program that I mentioned. We have a book club I've been doing for 5 years that's free. We have a masterclass that I do every month on the first Thursday of every month. That's also free. So we got a bunch of good stuff, but ultimately the podcast is the best place to get started. If you're ready for actual life change in the real world, not the statusy bull crap that you hear of overnight success with very little effort. None of that. This is tried and true, small fundamentals that actually work in real life if you consistently apply them, and will be in your pocket every single day, leading by example and with you on the journey. We're not going to talk to you as gurus. We're going to talk to you as like, this is what we're doing. This is what we're going through. And you're with us on this train, really pushing to reach your full potential.
Amazing. Alan, now thank you for sharing your hearts and your wisdom and the journey that have shaped your mission. Your story now reminds us that growth is possible. Potential is real, and fulfillment comes when you choose to build ourselves from the inside out. To everyone listening, you can connect with Alan and join his community or access coaching and resources at thenextleveluniversity.com. This has been the Aro Benaiah Show. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep stepping into your next level. It's really a pleasure having you on the show once again.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you. And thank you for anyone who listened.